In Victorian society, a single misplaced gesture could mark you as uncultured, or worse, vulgar. That's the world Florence Hartley wrote for. In 1860, she published the Ladies Book of Etiquette, a detailed guide for young women navigating everything from evening parties to social visits to entering a parlour without a gentleman escort. Some of her advice still rings true. Be thoughtful, be punctual, be kind. But the book was written in a very different time, for a very particular kind of woman, one expected to host receptions, manage household staff, and follow a strict social code. This video brings those chapters to life, offering a glimpse into the strange, elegant, and occasionally excessive world of Victorian etiquette. Let's get started. First up is how to host a proper Victorian evening party without accidentally offending half your guest list.
The most fashionable as well as pleasant way in the present day to entertain guests is to invite them to evening parties, which vary in size from the company, sociable, soirée, to the party, par excellence, which is but one step from the ball. The entertainment upon such occasions may vary with the taste of the hostess or the caprice of her guests. Some prefer dancing, some music, some conversation. Small parties called together for dramatic or poetical readings are now fashionable and very delightful. In writing an invitation for a small party, it is kind, as well as polite, to specify the number of guests invited, that your friends may dress to suit the occasion. To be either too much or too little dressed at such times is embarrassing. Always date your note of invitation and put your address in one corner. Having dispatched these notes, the next step is to prepare to receive your guests. If the number invited is large and you hire waiters, give them notice several days beforehand and engage them to come in the morning. Give them full directions for the supper, appoint one to open the door, another to show the guests to the dressing rooms, and a third to wait in the gentlemen's dressing room to attend to them if their services are required. If you use your own plate, glass, and china, show the waiters where to find them, as well as the tablecloths, napkins, and other things they may require. You will have to place at least 4 rooms at the disposal of your guests, the supper room and 2 dressing rooms beside the drawing room. In the morning, see that the fires in your rooms are in good order, and in the drawing room it is best to have it so arranged that the heat can be lessened towards evening, as the crowd and dancing will make it excessively uncomfortable if the rooms are too warm. See that the lights are in good order, and if you propose to have music instead of dancing, or to use your piano for dancing music, have it put in good tune in the morning. If you intend to dance, and do not wish to take up the carpets, you will find it economical, as well as much pleasanter, to cover them with coarse white muslin or linen. Be sure it is fastened down smoothly, firmly, and drawn tightly over the carpets. Do not remove all the chairs from the parlour, or, if this is necessary, leave some in the hall, for those who wish to rest after dancing. In the dining room, unless it will accommodate all your guests at once, have a silk cord so fastened that, when the room is full, it can be drawn across the doorway. Those following the guests already in the room will then return to the parlour and wait their turn. 2 dressing rooms must be ready, one for the ladies and the other for the gentlemen. Have both these rooms comfortably heated and well lighted. Nothing can be more disagreeable than cold, ill-lighted rooms to dress in, particularly if your guests come in half frozen by the cold of a winter's night, or still worse, damp from a stormy one. It is ill-bred to send invitations either by the dispatch or through the post office, and besides being discourteous, you risk offending your friends, as these modes of delivery are proverbially uncertain. Be dressed and ready to receive your guests in good season, as some, in their desire to be punctual, may come before the time appointed. It is better to be ready too soon than too late, as your guests will feel painfully embarrassed if you are not ready to receive them. For the early part of the evening, take a position in your parlour, near or opposite to the door, that each guest may find you easily. It is not necessary to remain all the evening nailed to this one spot, but stay near it until your guests have all or nearly all assembled. Latecomers will of course expect to find you entertaining your guests. As each guest or party enter the room, advance a few steps to meet them, speaking first to the lady, or if there are several ladies, to the eldest, then to the younger ones, and finally to the gentleman. If the newcomers are acquainted with those already in the room, they will leave you, after a few words of greeting, to join their friends. But if they are strangers to the city, or making their first visit to your house, introduce them to a friend who is well acquainted in your circle, who will entertain them till you can again join them, and introduce them to others. Do not leave the room during the evening. To see a hostess fidgeting, constantly going in and out, argues ill for her tact in arranging the house for company. With well-trained waiters, you need give yourself no uneasiness about the arrangements outside of the parlours. The perfection of good breeding in a hostess is perfect ease of manner. For the time she should appear to have no thought or care beyond the pleasure of her guests. Have a waiter in the hall to open the front door, and another at the head of the first flight of stairs, to point out to the ladies and gentlemen their respective dressing rooms. Never try to outshine your guests in dress. It is vulgar in the extreme. A hostess should be dressed as simply as is consistent with the occasion, wearing, if she will, the richest fabrics, exquisitely made, but avoiding any display of jewels or gay colours, such as will be probably more conspicuous than those worn by her guests. Remember, from the moment your first guest enters the parlour, you must forget yourself entirely to make the evening pleasant for others. Your duties will call you from one group to another, and require constant watchfulness that no one guest is slighted. Be careful that none of the company are left to mope alone from being unacquainted with other guests. Introduce gentlemen to ladies, and gentlemen to gentlemen, ladies to ladies. It requires much skill and tact to make a party for conversation only go off pleasantly. You must invite only such guests as will mutually please, and you must be careful about introductions. If you have a literary lion upon your list, it is well to invite other lions to meet him or her, that the attention may not be constantly concentrated upon one person. Never interrupt an earnest or apparently interesting conversation. Neither party will thank you, even if you propose the most delightful substitute. If your party meet for reading, have a table with the books in the centre of the apartment. That will divide the room, those reading being on one side, the listeners on the other. Be careful here not to endeavour to shine above your guests, leaving to them the most prominent places, and taking, cheerfully, a subordinate place. On the other hand, if you are urged to display any talent you may possess in this way, remember, your only desire is to please your guests, and if they are really desirous to listen to you, comply, gracefully and promptly, with their wishes. If you have dancing, and have not engaged a band, it is best to hire a pianist for the evening to play dancing music. You will find it exceedingly wearisome to play yourself all the evening, and it is ill-bred to ask any guest to play for others to dance. This victimizing of some obliging guest is only too common, but no true lady will ever be guilty of such rudeness. If there are several members of the family able and willing to play, let them divide this duty amongst them, or, if you wish to play yourself, do so. If any guest, in this case, offers to relieve you, accept their kindness for one dance only. Young people, who enjoy dancing, but who also play well, will often stay on the piano stool all the evening, because their own good nature will not allow them to complain, and their hostess wilfully, or through negligence, permits the tax. See that your guests are well provided with partners, introducing every gentleman and lady who dances to one who will dance well with them. Be careful that none sit still through your negligence in providing partners. Do not dance yourself, when, by so doing, you are preventing a guest from enjoying that pleasure. If a lady is wanted to make up a set, then dance. Or if, late in the evening, you have but few lady dancers left, but do not interfere with the pleasure in others. If invited, say that you do not wish to take the place of a guest upon the floor, and introduce the gentleman who invites you to some lady friend who dances. It It is very pleasant in a dancing party to have ices alone, handed round at about 10 o'clock, having supper set 2 or 3 hours later. They are very refreshing, when it would be too early to have the more substantial supper announced. It is very customary now, even in large parties, to have no refreshments but ice cream, lemonade and cake, or, in summer, fruit, cake, and ices. It is less troublesome, as well as less expensive than a hot supper, and the custom will be a good one to adopt permanently. One word of warning to all hostesses. You can never know when you place wine or brandy before your guests, whom you may be tempting to utter ruin. Better, far better, to have a reputation as strict or mean, than by your example, or the temptation you offer, to have the sin upon your soul of having put poison before those who partook of your hospitality. It is not necessary. Hospitality and generosity do not require it, and you will have the approval of all who truly love you for your good qualities, if you resolutely refuse to have either wine or any other intoxicating liquor upon your supper table. If the evening of your party is stormy, let a waiter stand in the vestibule with a large umbrella to meet the ladies at the carriage door, and protect them whilst crossing the pavement and steps. When your guests take leave of you, it will be in the drawing-room, and let that farewell be final. Do not accompany them to the dressing-room, and never stop them in the hall for a last word. Many ladies do not like to display their sortie du soirée before a crowded room, and you will be keeping their escort waiting. Say farewell in the parlour, and do not repeat it. If your party is mixed, that is, conversation, dancing, and music are all mingled, remember it is your place to invite a guest to sing or play, and be careful not to offend any amateur performers by forgetting to invite them to favour the company. If they decline, never urge the matter. If you have guests who, performing badly, will expect an invitation to play, sacrifice their desire to the good of the others, pass them by. It is torture to listen to bad music. Do not ask a guest to sing or play more than once. This is her fair share, and you have no right to tax her too severely to entertain your other guests. If, however, the performance is so pleasing that others ask for a repetition, then you too may request it, thanking the performer for the pleasure given.
After laying out everything a proper hostess must do to keep her guests comfortable, entertained, and suitably impressed, the author turns to the guest, who, as it turns out, had just as many rules to follow.
Upon receiving an invitation for an evening party, answer it immediately, that your hostess may know for how many guests she must provide. If, after accepting an invitation, any unforeseen event prevents your keeping the engagement, write a second note containing your regrets. Punctuality is a mark of politeness, if your invitation states the hour at which your hostess will be ready to welcome you. Do not be more than half an hour later than the time named, but if unavoidably detained, make no apology when you meet your hostess. It will be in bad taste to speak of your want of punctuality. When you arrive at your friend's house, do not stop to speak to anyone in the hall or upon the stairs, but go immediately to the dressing-room. The gentleman who accompanies you will go to the door of the lady's room, leave you to remove his own hat and overcoat, and then return to the door to wait for you. In the dressing-room, do not push forward to the mirror if you see that others are before you there. Wait for your turn, then perform the needful arrangements of your toilette quickly, and rejoin your escort as soon as possible. If you meet friends in the ladies' room, do not stop there to chat. You keep your escort waiting, and your friends will join you in the parlour a few moments later. When you enter the parlour, go immediately to your hostess and speak to her. If the gentleman attending you is a stranger to the lady of the house, introduce him, and then join the other guests, as by delaying to converse too long with your hostess, you may prevent her speaking to others who have arrived later than yourself. If you have no escort, you may with perfect propriety send for the master of the house, to wait upon you from the dressing-room to the parlour, and as soon as you have spoken to the hostess, thank your host and release him, as the same attention may be required by others. Again, when alone, if you meet a friend in the dressing-room, you may ask the privilege of entering the parlour with her and her escort, Or, if she also is alone, there is no impropriety in two ladies going into the room unattended by a gentleman. While you maintain a cheerful deportment, avoid loud talking and laughing, and still more carefully avoid any action or gesture that may attract attention and make you conspicuous. When dressing for a party, while you show that you honor the occasion by a tasteful dress, avoid glaring colors or any conspicuous ornament or style of costume. Avoid long tête-à-tête conversations. They are in bad taste, and to hold confidential communication, especially with gentlemen, is still worse. Do not make any display of affection for even your dearest friend. Kissing in public or embracing are in bad taste. Walking with arms encircling waists, or such demonstrative tokens of love, are marks of low breeding. Avoid crossing the room alone, and never run, even if you feel embarrassed and wish to cross quickly. If you are a musician and certain that you will confer pleasure by a display of your talents, do not make a show of reluctance when invited to play or sing. Comply gracefully, and after one piece, leave the instrument. Be careful to avoid the appearance of wishing to be invited, and, above all, never hint that this would be agreeable. Never attempt any piece before company, unless you are certain that you can play it without mistake or hesitation. When you have finished your song or piece, rise instantly from the piano stool, as your hostess may wish to invite another guest to take the place. If you have a reason for declining to play, do so decidedly when first invited, and do not change your decision. If your hostess or any of the family play for the guests to dance, it is both polite and kind to offer to relieve them, and if truly polite themselves, they will not take advantage of the offer to overtax your good nature. When others are playing or singing, listen quietly and attentively. To laugh or talk loudly when there is music in the room is rude, both toward the performer and your hostess. If you are conversing at the time the music begins, and you find that your companion is not disposed to listen to the performer at the harp or piano, converse in a low tone and take a position at some distance from the instrument. If the rooms are not large enough for all the guests to dance at one time, do not dance every set, even if invited. It is ill-bred and selfish. When you go up to supper, do not accept anything from any gentleman but the one who has escorted you from the parlour. If others offer you, as they probably will, any refreshment, say that your escort has gone to get you what you desire. He has a right to be offended if, after telling him what you wish for, he returns to find you already supplied. It is quite as rude to offer what he brings to another lady. Her escort is probably on the same errand from which yours has just returned. It may seem trivial and childish to warn a lady against putting cakes or bonbons in her pocket at supper, yet it is often done by those who would deeply resent the accusation of rudeness or meanness. It is not only ill-bred, but it gives rise, if seen, to suspicions that you are so little accustomed to society, or so starved at home, that you are ignorant of the forms of etiquette, or are forced to the theft by positive hunger. If you are obliged to leave the company at an earlier hour than the other guests, say so to your hostess in a low tone, when you have an opportunity, and then stay a short time in the room, and slip out unperceived. If you remain until the usual hour for breaking up, go to your hostess before you leave the room, express the pleasure you have enjoyed, and bid her farewell. Within the next week, you should call upon your hostess, if it is the first party you have attended at her house. If she is an intimate friend, the call should be made within a fortnight.
After the structured formality of evening parties, the author shifts focus to something more personal, hosting a guest overnight. Whether for a day or a fortnight, welcoming someone into your home came with its own set of expectations, many of them surprisingly detailed.
When you write to invite a friend to visit you, name a time when it will be convenient and agreeable for you to receive her, and if she accepts your invitation, so arrange your duties and engagements that they will not interfere with your devoting the principal part of your time to the entertainment of your guest. If you have certain duties which must be performed daily, say so frankly when she first arrives, and see that during the time you are so occupied she has work, reading, music, or some other employment, to pass the time away pleasantly. Have a room prepared especially for her use, and let her occupy it alone. Many persons have a dislike to anyone sleeping with them, and will be kept awake by a companion in the room or bed. Above all, do not put a child to sleep in the chamber with your guest. The day before your friend arrives, have her room swept, dusted, and aired. Put clean, fresh linen upon the bed. See that the curtains are in good order, the locks in perfect repair, and the closet or wardrobe and bureau empty for her clothes. On the mantelpiece, place a few books that she may read, if she wishes, before sleeping. Have upon the mantelpiece a box of matches, and if the room is not lighted by gas, have also a supply of candles in a box and a candlestick. If the room is not heated by a furnace, be careful that the fire is made every morning before she rises, and keep a good supply of fuel in the room. Upon the table, place a full supply of writing materials, as your guest may wish to send word of her safe arrival before unpacking her own writing desk. Put 2 or 3 postage stamps upon this table. Be sure that bells, locks, hinges, and windows are all in perfect order. Before your guest arrives, go to her room. If it is in winter, have a good fire, hot water on the washstand, and see that the windows are tightly closed, and the room cheerful with sunshine, or plenty of candle or gas light. If in summer, draw the curtains, bow the shutters, open the windows, and have a fan upon the table. It is well to have a bath ready, should your guest desire that refreshment after the dust and heat of travelling. When the time arrives at which you may expect your guest, send a carriage to the station to meet her, and, if possible, go yourself, or send some member of the family to welcome her there. After her baggage is on the carriage, drive immediately to the house, and be certain all is ready there for her comfort. As soon as she is at your house, have her trunks carried immediately to her own room, and lead her there yourself. Then, after warmly assuring her how welcome she is, leave her alone to change her dress, bathe, or lie down if she wishes. If her journey has been a long one, and it is not the usual hour for your next meal, have a substantial repast ready for her about half an hour after her arrival, with tea or coffee. If she arrives late at night, after she has removed her bonnet and bathed her face, invite her to partake of a substantial supper, and then pity her weariness, and lead the way to her room. She may politely assert that she can still sit up and talk, but be careful you do not keep her up too long, and do not waken her in the morning. After the first day, she will, of course, desire to breakfast at your usual hour, but if she has had a long, fatiguing journey, she will be glad to sleep late the first day. Be careful that she has a hot breakfast ready when she does rise, and take a seat at the table to wait upon her. After the chambermaid has arranged the guest chamber in the morning, go in yourself and see that all is in order, and comfortable, and that there is plenty of fresh water and towels, the bed properly made, and the room dusted. Then do not go in again through the day, unless invited. If you are constantly running in, you will entirely destroy the pleasantest part of your guest's visit, by reminding her that she is not at home, and must not take liberties, even in her own room. It looks, too, as if you were afraid to trust her, and thought she would injure the furniture. If you have children, forbid them to enter the room your friend occupies, unless she invites them to do so, or they are sent there with a message. If your household duties will occupy your time for some hours in the morning, introduce your guest to the piano, bookcase, or picture folio, and place all at her service. When your duties are finished, either join her in her own room, or invite her to sit with you and work, chatting, meanwhile, together. If you keep your own carriage, place it at her disposal as soon as she arrives. If she is a stranger in the city, accompany her to the points of interest she may wish to visit, and also offer to show her where to find the best goods, should she wish to do any shopping. Inquire of your visitor if there is any particular habit she may wish to indulge in, such as rising late, retiring early, lying down in the daytime, or any other habit that your family do not usually follow. If there is, arrange it, so that she may enjoy her peculiarity in comfort. If there is any dish which is distasteful to her, avoid placing it upon the table during her visit. And if she mentions in conversation any favourite dish, have it frequently placed before her. If she is accustomed to eat just before retiring, and your family do not take supper, see that something is sent to her room every night. If your friend has intimate friends in the same city, beside yourself, it is an act of kindly courtesy to invite them to dinner, tea, or to pass a day, and when calls are made, and you see that it would be pleasant, invite the caller to remain to dinner or tea. Never accept any invitation, either to a party, ball, or public entertainment, that does not include your guest. In answering the invitation, give that as your reason for declining. It is a mistaken idea to suppose that hospitality and courtesy require constant attention to a guest. There are times when she may prefer to be alone, either to write letters, to read, or practice. Some ladies follow a guest from one room to another, never leaving them alone for a single instant, when they would enjoy an hour or two in the library or at the piano, but do not like to say so. The best rule is to make your guest feel that she is heartily welcome and perfectly at home. When she is ready to leave you, see that her trunks are strapped in time by the servants. Have a carriage ready to take her to the station. Have the breakfast or dinner at an hour that will suit her. Prepare a luncheon for her to carry, and let some gentleman in the family escort her to the wharf, check her trunks, and procure her tickets.
After covering the expectations of a hostess, the author turns to the other side of visiting, being a guest in someone else's home. These were her rules for being a considerate visitor, without overstaying your welcome or rearranging the furniture.
As a first rule with regard to paying a visit, the best one is never to accept a general invitation. Instances are very common where women, I cannot say ladies, have, upon a slight acquaintance, and a casual invite such as, "When you are in city, I should be very happy to have you visit me," actually gone to city from their own home, and, with bag and baggage, quartered themselves upon the hospitality of their newly made friend, for weeks at a time. Even where there is a long-standing friendship, it is not well to visit uninvited. It is impossible for you, in another city, to know exactly when it will be convenient for your friend to have you visit her, unless she tells you, and that will, of course, be a special invitation. If your friends are really desirous to have you pay them a visit, they will name a time when it will be convenient and agreeable to have you come, and you may accept the invitation with the certainty that you will not incommode them. Self-proposed visits are still worse. You, in a manner, force an invitation from your friend when you tell her that you can come at a certain time, unless you have previously arranged to let her know when you can be her guest. In that case, your own time is understood to be the most agreeable for her. If, whilst travelling, you pass through a town where you have friends whom you wish to visit, and who would be hurt if you omitted to do so, go first to a hotel, and either call or send word that you are there. Then, it is optional with them to extend their hospitality or not. Do not be offended if it is not done. The love for you may be undiminished, and the desire to entertain you very great. Yet family reasons may render such an invitation as you expect impossible. Your friend may have engagements or duties at the time that would prevent her making the visit pleasant for you, and wish to postpone the invitation until she can entertain you as she wishes. To drive, trunks and all, in such a case, to your friend's house, without a word of warning, is unkind, as well as ill-bred. You force her to invite you to stay, when it may be inconvenient, and, even if she is really glad to see you, and wishes you to make a prolonged visit, you may feel certain she would have preferred to know you were coming. If she really loves you, her natural desire would be to have everything ready to give you a comfortable reception, and not have to leave you perhaps, with your travelling costume on for an hour or two, while she prepares a room for you. It is not enough to say, at such a time, "Don't mind me," or "Treat me as one of the family." However much her politeness or love may conceal annoyance, be sure, In her secret heart she does mind you, and remember you are not one of her private family. To take the liberty of going to the house of a mere acquaintance, for a night or two, while travelling, without invitation, is making a convenience of them, and wears the appearance of wishing to save the customary hotel bill. So, while it is extremely ill-bred and impertinent, it is also excessively mean. In case of relationship, or long intimate friendship, an unexpected visit may be pardoned and give pleasure, but it is better to avoid it, as the pleasure will surely be increased if your relative or friend has time to prepare for your reception, as her love will prompt and arrange her duties and engagements to really enjoy your company. When you receive an invitation by letter to visit a friend, answer it immediately, thanking her for her proffered hospitality, and say decidedly then whether you can accept or decline. If you accept the invitation, state in your letter by what train and at what hour you will arrive, that she may meet you, and let nothing but positive necessity keep you from being punctually at the time and place appointed. To linger by the way for mere pleasure, and make her come several times to meet you, is unkind as well as ill-bred. If you are unavoidably detained, write to her, state the reason that will prevent your keeping the appointment, and name another time when you can come. It is well in answering a letter of invitation to state the limits of your visit, and then to keep them. If she is unwilling to let you go, and you are tempted to stay, that very fact promises well for the pleasure of a second visit. It is better to leave while all will regret you, than to linger on until you have worn out your welcome. Inquire, as soon as possible after your arrival, what are the regular habits of the family, the hours for rising, for meals, and for retiring, and then be punctual in your attendance. Many ladies are very ceremonious about waiting for a guest, and by delay in your room, or inattention to the time, when you are out, you will keep the whole family waiting. If you do not wake early enough for the usual breakfast hour, request the chambermaid to knock at your door in time for you to be ready to go down with the family. After breakfast, ask your hostess if you can be of any assistance to her in the household duties. If she declines your services, do not follow her from room to room whilst she is thus engaged, but take your work, books, or music to the sitting-room or parlour until your own room is ready for you. By thus proving that you can occupy yourself pleasantly while she is away, you make it less annoying to her to feel the obligation to leave you. As soon as you see that she is ready to sew and chat, leave your book, or, if in your own room, come to the sitting-room where she is, and work with her. Many pleasant mornings may be spent while visiting, by one lady reading aloud, whilst the other sews, alternating the work. It is a pretty compliment to repay the hospitality of your hostess by working whilst with her upon some piece of fancy work, a chair cover, sofa cushion, or pair of ottomans, presenting them to her when finished, as a keepsake. They will be duly appreciated, and remind her constantly of the pleasures of your visit. If you pass the morning out of the house, remember your time is hers, and have no engagement to interfere with the plans she has laid for entertaining you. Observe this rule during your whole visit, and do not act independent of her plans. By constantly forming engagements without her knowledge, going out without her, or staying in when she has made some excursion or party for your pleasure, you insult her, by intimating that her house is no more to you than a hotel, to sleep and eat in, while your pleasures lie elsewhere. After dinner, retire for an hour to your own room, that your hostess may lie down if she is accustomed to do so. If the hours kept are later than you have been accustomed to, or if the gaiety of the family keeps you out at party or opera, it is best to sleep after dinner, even if you do not always do it. To give signs of weariness in the evening will be excessively rude, implying want of enjoyment, and making your hostess feel hurt and annoyed. If you have shopping to do, find out where the best stores are, and then go to them alone, unless your hostess will accompany you upon similar business of her own. Do not tax her good nature to go, merely for the sake of aiding you as guide. If one of the children in the family is familiar with the stores and streets, ask her to accompany you, and be careful to acknowledge the kindness by buying something especially for the child, whilst she is out with you, if it is only some cakes or bonbons. Choose an hour when you are certain your hostess has made no other engagement for you, or while she is busy in her domestic duties, for these shopping excursions. Offer, when you are going, to attend to any shopping she may want, and ask if there is any commission you can execute for her while you are out. While on a visit to one friend, do not accept too many invitations from others, and avoid spending too much time in paying calls where your hostess is not acquainted. You owe the greater portion of your time and society to the lady whose hospitality you are accepting, and it is best to decline invitations from other houses, unless they enclose one for your hostess also. Never invite any friend who may call upon you to stay to dinner or tea. You will be taking a most unwarrantable liberty in so doing. This is the right of your hostess, and if, by her silence, she tacitly declines extending this courtesy, you will be guilty of impertinence in usurping her privilege. Never take anyone who calls upon you into any room but the parlour, unless invited to do so by your hostess. You have, of course, the entree of other rooms, but you have no right to extend this privilege to others. If you have many gentlemen visitors, check too frequent calls, and make no appointments with them. If they show you any such attention as to offer to drive you to places of interest, or visit with you picture galleries or public places, always consult your hostess before accepting such civilities, and decline them if she has made other engagements for you. When visiting in a family where the members are in mourning, decline all invitations to parties or places of public amusement. It is an insult to them to leave them to join in pleasure, from which their recent affliction excludes them. Your visit at such a time will be prompted by sympathy in their trouble, and for the time it is thoughtful and delicate to make their sorrows yours. If sudden sickness or family trouble come to your friend whilst you are with her, unless you can really be useful, shorten your visit. In time of trouble, families generally like to be alone, all in all to each other, and a visitor is felt a constant restraint. If death comes while you are with your friend, endeavour to take from her as much of the care as you can. A really sympathizing friend is an inexpressible comfort at such a time. Let her feel that you are really glad that you are near her in her affliction, and repay the hospitality she offered in her season of joy, by showing her that her sorrow makes her still more dear, and that, while you can enjoy the gaiety of her house, you will not flee from its mourning. When your presence can be of no further service, then leave her. Put out your washing and ironing when on a visit. It is annoying and ill-bred to throw your soiled clothes into the family wash. Take with you from home all the writing and sewing materials you may require while paying your visit. It is annoying to be constantly requested by a visitor to lend her scissors, pins, needles, or paper. Be very careful not to injure any article of furniture in your sleeping apartment, and if, unfortunately, anything suffers from your carelessness, have the accident repaired or the article replaced, at your own expense. When your visit is over, give a present to each of the servants, varying its value according to the length of your visit or the services you may have required. You will add to the pleasure by presenting such gifts yourself, with a few pleasant words. Never compare the house you may be visiting with your own, or any other you may visit. Avoid also speaking of any house where you may have been a guest, in terms of overpraise, giving glowing pictures of its splendor. Your hostess may imagine you are drawing comparisons unfavorable to your present residence. Also avoid speaking unfavorably of any former visit, as your hostess will naturally conclude that her turn for censure will come as soon as your visit is over. If any family secret comes to your knowledge while you are on a visit in that family, remember the hospitality extended to you binds you to the most inviolable secrecy. It is mean, contemptible, rude, and ill-bred to make your entertainers regret their hospitality by betraying any such confidence. For it is as sacred a confidence as if you were bound over to silence in the most solemn manner. After paying a visit, you should write to your hostess as soon as you reach home again. Thank her in this letter for her hospitality, speak warmly of the enjoyment you have had in your recent visit, and mention by name every member of the family, desiring to be remembered to all.
The author now turns to the practice of receiving callers. Short, formal visits, typically made in the late morning or early afternoon. These were a common part of Victorian social life, and hosting them came with rules of its own.
If your circle of visiting acquaintance is very large, while at the same time your time is fully occupied, or your home duties make it inconvenient to dress every morning to receive visitors, it is a good plan to set aside one morning in the week for a reception day. Upon your own visiting cards, below the name, put the day when it will be proper to return the visit. Your friends will, unless there is some especial reason for a call in the interval, pay their visit upon the day named. Let nothing but the most imperative duty call you out upon your reception day. Your callers are, in a measure, invited guests, and it will be an insulting mark of rudeness to be out when they call. Neither can you be excused, except in case of sickness. Having appointed the day when you will be at home to see your friends, you must, for that day, prepare to give your time wholly to them. The usual hours for morning receptions are from 12 to 3, and you should be dressed and ready for callers, at least half an hour before that time. To come in, flushed from a hurried toilette, to meet your first callers, is unbecoming as well as rude. Your dress should be handsome, but not showy. A silk or cashmere wrapper, richly trimmed, over an embroidered skirt, with a pretty cap, or the hair neatly arranged without headdress, is a becoming and appropriate dress. Still better is a rich but plain silk, made high in the neck with long sleeves. As each visitor arrives, rise and advance part of the way to meet her. If gentlemen, rise, but do not advance. It is not customary now to introduce callers at these morning receptions, though you can do so with perfect propriety, where you know such an introduction will be agreeable to both parties. In introducing a gentleman to a lady, address her first as, "Miss Jones, permit me to introduce Mr. Lee." And, when introducing a young lady to a matron, you introduce the younger one to the elder as, "Mrs. Green, allow me to introduce to you my friend, Miss Brown." In introducing strangers in the city, it is well to name the place of their residence, as Mr. James of Germany, or Mr. Brown of New York, or, if they have recently returned from abroad, it is well to say so, as Mr. Lee, lately from India. This is useful in starting conversation. Be careful, when introducing your friends, to pronounce the name of each one clearly and distinctly, that there may be no mistake or necessity for repetition. It is a good plan, if your receptions are usually largely attended, to have books and pictures on the centre table, and scattered about your parlours. You must, of course, converse with each caller, but many will remain in the room for a long time, and these trifles are excellent pastime, and serve as subjects for conversation. It requires much tact to know when to introduce friends, when to take refuge under the shield fashion offers, and not make them acquainted with each other. It is a positive cruelty to force a talented, witty person to converse with one who is ignorant and dull, as they will, of course, be obliged to do, if introduced. A well-bred lady, who is receiving several visitors at a time, pays equal attention to all, and attempts, as much as possible, to generalize the conversation, turning to all in succession. The last arrival, however, receives a little more attention at first than the others. If it is not agreeable to you to set aside a day for the especial reception of callers, and you have a large circle of acquaintances, be ready to receive them each day that you are at home. If you are engaged, let the servant say so when she opens the door, and do not send down that message after your friend has been admitted. If she is told when she arrives that you are engaged, she will understand that you are denied to all callers, but if that message comes after she has sent up her card, she may draw the inference that you will not see her, though you may see other friends. Never keep a caller waiting whilst you make an elaborate toilette. If you are not ready for visitors, it is best to enter the parlour in your wrapper, apologizing for it, than to keep your friend waiting whilst you change your dress. If a stranger calls, bringing a letter of introduction, and sends the letter, you may read it before going downstairs, but if they wait till you are in the parlour before presenting the letter, merely glance at the signature and at the name of your caller. Do not read the letter through unless it is very short, or you are requested by the bearer to do so. If you have a friend staying with you, invite her to join you in the parlour when you have callers, and introduce her to your friends. If you wish to invite a caller to stay to luncheon or dinner, give the invitation as soon as you have exchanged greetings, not after she has been seated for some time. In the latter case, it appears like an afterthought, not, as in the former, as if from a real desire to have the pleasure of her company. If you have but one caller at a time, rise when she does, and accompany her to the vestibule. But, if there are several in the room, rise when each one does, but only accompany them to the parlour door. Then take leave of them, and return to those who still remain seated. If, after affliction, your friends call before you are able to see them, do not fear to give offence by declining to receive them. They will respect your sorrow, and the call is made more to show their sympathy than from a desire to converse with you. Visits of condolence, paid between the death of one of your family and the day of the funeral, you may always excuse yourself from, with perfect propriety. They are made in kindness and show interest, but if you decline seeing such callers, there is no offence given. In parting from a gentleman caller, rise when he does, and remain standing until he leaves the room, but do not go towards the door. When a gentleman calls in the morning, he will not remove his outside coat, and will hold his hat in his hand. Never offer to take the latter, and do not invite him to remove his coat. Take no notice of either one or the other. If strangers in the city call upon you, inquire at what hotel they are staying, and how long they will be there, that you may return their call before they leave town.
After laying out how to host a proper reception, the author now shifts focus to the caller, and the etiquette expected of those paying these formal morning visits.
The usual hours for paying morning calls are between 11 and 2, or 12 and 3, and all calls of ceremony should be made between these hours. Never, in paying a ceremonious call, stay more than 20 minutes, or less than 10. If your hostess has several other visitors at the same time that you are in her parlour, make your visit short, that she may have more attention to bestow upon others. When the servant answers your ring, hand in your card. If your friend is out or engaged, leave the card, and if she is in, send it up. Never call without cards. You may offend your friend, as she may never hear of your call, if she is out at the time, and you trust to the memory of the servant. If your friend is at home, after sending your card up to her by the servant, go into the parlour to wait for her. Sit down quietly, and do not leave your seat until you rise to meet her as she enters the room. To walk about the parlour, examining the ornaments and pictures, is ill-bred. It is still more unladylike to sit down and turn over to read the cards in her card-basket. If she keeps you waiting for a long time, you may take a book from the centre table to pass away the interval. Never, while waiting in a friend's parlour, go to the piano and play till she comes. This is a breach of good breeding often committed, and nothing can be more ill-bred. You may be disturbing an invalid unawares, or you may prevent your friend, if she has children, from coming downstairs at all by waking the baby. If you are a stranger in the city, and bring a letter of introduction to your hostess, send this letter upstairs with your card, that she may read it, and know how to welcome you when she comes downstairs. In this case, write upon the card the name of the hotel at which you are staying, and mention in the course of conversation how long you will be in the city. If you have a visitor and desire to introduce her to your friends, you may invite her to accompany you in paying calls. In making a call for condolence, it is sufficient to leave a card with your inquiries for the health of your friend, and offers of service. The same if calling upon invalids, if they are too ill to see you. In visits of congratulation, go in, and be hearty in your expressions of interest and sympathy. Pay visits, both of condolence and congratulation, within a week after the event which calls for them occurs. It is proper, when you have already made your call of the usual length, and another caller is announced, to rise and leave, not immediately, as if you shunned the new arrival, but after a moment or two. Never outsit 2 or 3 parties of visitors, unless you have private business with your hostess which cannot be postponed. Many denounce the system of morning calls as silly, frivolous, and a waste of time. They are wrong. It may be carried to an excess, and so admit of these objections. But in moderation, the custom is a good and pleasant one. You have then an opportunity of making friends of mere acquaintances, and you can, in a pleasant chat with a friend at home, have more real enjoyment in her society than in a dozen meetings in large companies, with all the formality and restraint of a party thrown around you. There are many subjects of conversation which are pleasant in a parlour, tête-à-tête with a friend, which you would not care to discuss in a crowded saloon, or in the street. Personal inquiries, private affairs, can be cosily chatted over. In paying your visits of condolence, show by your own quiet gravity that you sympathize in the recent affliction of your friend. Though you may endeavour to comfort and cheer her, you must avoid a gay or careless air, as it will be an insult at such a time. Never sit gazing curiously around the room when paying a call, as if taking a mental inventory of the furniture. It is excessively rude. It is still worse to appear to notice any disorder or irregularity that may occur. If, while paying a call, you perceive that any unforeseen matter in the family calls for the attention of the lady of the house, leave instantly, no matter how short your call has been. Your friend may not appear to notice the screams of a child, a noise in the kitchen, or the cry from the nursery that the fireboard has caught fire, but you may be sure she does hear it, and though too well bred to speak of it, will heartily rejoice to say goodbye. Do not take a child with you to pay calls until it is old enough to behave quietly and with propriety. To have a troublesome child constantly touching the parlour ornaments, balancing itself on the back of a chair, leaning from a window, or performing any of the 1,000 tricks in which children excel, is an annoyance, both to yourself and your hostess. Make no remark upon the temperature of the room, or its arrangement, when you enter it. Never open or shut a window or door without asking permission, and unless really suffering from excessive heat or cold, refrain from asking leave to take this liberty. If you are invited to go upstairs to your friend's private apartment, you will, of course, accept the invitation, but never go upstairs uninvited. When you reach her door, if the servant has not preceded and announced you, knock, and await her invitation to enter. Then, once in, take no notice of the room, but go instantly to your friend. If she is sewing, do not speak of the nature of her work, but request her to continue, as if you were not present. If you are visiting an invalid, or one confined by physical infirmity to one apartment, while you are cheerful and ready to impart all the news that will interest them, do not, by too glowing descriptions of outdoor pleasures, make them feel more keenly their own deprivations. It is well, when making such calls, to converse upon literature or such general subjects as will not remind them of their misfortune. In cases where, from long illness or other infirmity, a gentleman friend is confined entirely to his room, you may, with perfect propriety, call upon him. It is both polite and kind to do so, as otherwise he would be deprived entirely of the society of his lady friends. Many, thus unfortunately situated, from study and reading, while so shut out from the world, become the most delightful companions. If, when you make a call, you unfortunately intrude upon an early dinner hour, do not go in, but leave your card, and say that you will call again. In calling at a hotel, enter by the lady's door, and send your card to the room of your friend by the waiter. It is well, if you are calling upon an entire stranger, to choose a seat, and tell the waiter to say to the lady exactly where she will find you. She will probably enter with your card in her hand, then rise, greet her by name, and introduce yourself. If you speak to another stranger upon the same errand as the one you expect, the error will be instantly perceived by the difference in name. If a stranger, bringing a letter of introduction, sends the letter with her card instead of calling, courtesy requires you to make the first call, immediately, the same day that you receive the letter, if possible, if not, the day after.
And here's where we'll leave things for this video. These 6 chapters were just a selection of the total 26 in the full book, the Ladies Book of Etiquette. And if that's something you'd like to hear more of, be sure to subscribe, because we'll be diving into the rest very soon. If you'd like to read the full book yourself, there's a link in the description. It's completely free. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time.